You're listening to Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. I'm Kurt Hendel, a battle-tested security architect with a zero-trust worldview, coming at you from the future with the magic of editing to give our past episodes a proper introduction. And with me, as always, is my friend Cameron Walters, the AppSec and DevSecOps builder trying to automate the world. We turn real-world security chaos into conversations that actually matter. So grab your coffee. Let's travel back in time to the original recording. Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec starts now.
All righty, we're back. Another episode, Coffee, Chaos, and
Wired.
ProdSec. You're wired?
Wired. Got more coffee than usual today.
All right. Well, I think today's episode is going to be fun. I think
They're all fun.
Time. I mean, true, but it's pen testing, right? It's breaking down how we essentially use the hacking philosophy or practice to improve our companies. And I think it's very, I don't know, a good word, maybe serendipitous that today is also Halloween. At least at the time of recording, it is Halloween, and we're going to be talking about the spooky sides of hacking, maybe, or at least demystifying it and breaking it down from, our views of ProdSec, right? And how we see it. Whereas there might be, maybe we'll take away that little tainted, glass lens or beauty, whatever it is. What is the saying where they say it's, looks beautiful, but then once you actually look behind it, you're like, oh, okay, that's a little different than what I hear.
I don't know.
I can't remember what it is.
I don't know.
Like rose-colored glasses, or there's other phrases. I don't know, bro. I'm with you.
Jaded. I don't know. It's pretty on the outside. It's ugly on the inside.
Yeah, any one of those.
I got in the spirit of Halloween, I got a spider with me. This is not brought to you by Spider.
All right, perfect. Well, I mean, the one thing we always forget to do is introduce ourselves. So I'm going to kick us off. I am Cameron.
Hey.
I am one of our hosts, but my background's particularly in application security, DevSecOps, and a little bit of hacking, a little everything around securing code. And I have my great co-host here, Kurt.
Architect by trade, chaotic through and through. Chaos is my job. I like to break stuff. Been a developer, been a security architect. I like to break stuff in any job. And so we're making the most of it, talking about product security and my favorite topic, breaking stuff. Penetration testing. I like to call it break stuff.
All righty. Well, what coffee are you drinking today?
I've got the same one as last week. It's that Partners coffee from the roastery in New York. I actually read the bag this time. It said flat iron. I think I said that last time too, but this time I confirmed it, and it's like, I don't know, it's different because it's black with a scoop of sugar in it. Not that I need any more, but I'm going 1,000 miles an hour right now. You just can't tell.
Yeah, I think it's been a crazy day for all of us. So I am having my normal cold brew. I can't remember what bag it is, but it's in my cool caffeine cup. That's looks like it has the molecule on it.
It's orange, delicious. So it's pumpkin spice again.
Oh yeah, pumpkin spice.
Always.
Well, we're heading into the fall season, so I think we'll probably keep with that. But then once we get past Thanksgiving, it'll be going to peppermint.
All right, Christmas season. I don't like peppermint. Not my thing.
Why?
I was thinking about this earlier. Don't ask me why, but maybe it was because I knew I was going to be hanging out with you today. But I sat there and I thought, does Cameron ever drink hot coffee?
I do.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
At home, it's practically never. It's literally practically never, because I like it to be extremely accessible. But as you know, I go to the cafe every Saturday or Sunday at the same place, and if it's cold out, I usually get a hot coffee. They have like unlimited hot coffee and then he gives me like different syrups each time because they make them in house, and so I'll have like a lavender hot coffee, and then if it's have peppermint or vanilla, all the different kinds of flavors they have. Sometimes he makes this orange flavored one, which is very interesting. It's like an orange syrup that he makes himself. That one is an acquired taste, and I have to be in the mood for that day. But I do have hot coffee. Just at home, I prefer cold.
Right. Noted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned something today.
There you go. So, I mean, we can kind of jump into the topic at hand, right? Which really is ProdSec and corporate versus product pen testing, right? Uh, there is, I think, a drastic difference depending on your product. I think there are some products out there that maybe people sell that include a lot of aspects that would be part of a corporate test. But, if I had to break down the two different kind of methodologies at every company I've kind of been at, there's usually, from what I see, two different sides that handle each test, right?
Yeah.
There's usually the SOC maybe handles the corporate pen tests, because the SOC, Security Operations Center, is really geared towards securing the company as a whole and responding to security threats and incidents that happen. Whereas engineering, or cyber security, I don't know what I'm trying to say, application security, product security side of the organization really just pinpoint focus on the product, right? And so they conduct a different test that is much more on the SKUs and our product offerings, depending on that. And they have two different kind of scopes, right?
Yeah.
Whereas corporate definitely has, it goes for corporate, or sorry, it goes for networks, AD. Sometimes they attack laptops. Depending if your company allows it, they have like phishing and physical access where they try to actually get into there. Those are like the
Yeah.
crazy stories you hear at like DEF CON or something, where they're like, hey, yeah, they gave me this thing, and so I had my grandma sign up or look, as a janitor, and she walked in there and plugged in a USB, because no one would stop like a janitor grandma from doing something, but we own them. And or I've heard, I can't remember who told me one story, is where they're like, we had like their entire server, like we walked out of their office with a server and took a picture and sent that to the client and be like, hey, you got some physical issues here. But those
Yeah.
are, I would
Well, I
say,
think
far in between. Those do happen.
that adds another dimension to it, though, because we're like on the corporate side of pen testing. Like you just mentioned, the physical security aspects of things. Everyone thinks like cybersecurity, it's all digital, right? There is physical security, which it it's a parallel world, I guess, but we kind of touch on it because there's always talking about data centers and servers and where all the technology lives, right? So there is a physical aspect to it. The fun Those are the funniest stories of like, oh well, we just walked into your office and pig tailgated with someone. They swiped their badge, they let us in, thinking we're legit. We're supposed to be here. We went into your IT closet and took a server and just left. Like, what? Is this real life right now? Like, it's too easy. They're like, the first story you told kind of loosely is one that stuck with me. Is I think I've mentioned before, but I was at the RSA conference back in, I think it was like 2020. Um, and I went to a talk by I think he was one of the founders of like Black Hills Security, which is a well-known pen testing firm. And he talked about how they pen tested a prison. And so they got his mom to act like the janitorial service or whatever. And she had a USB in her pocket and went all the way into the warden's office, plugged it in, and left. And that was it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
hilarious to hear that story.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just the easiness of it, right? Because you're exploiting the human factor at most of those
Yeah.
times, right? Is that, yeah, as humans, we're usually conflict avoiding, right? We don't want to talk to people if we have to at most times. And if somebody looks the part, most of us take
Right.
that by granted rather than actually reviewing
Say
or,
something.
yeah, say something, right? It's something that just doesn't happen. We all kind of go about our lives and assume somebody else is
Yeah.
handling something, but in reality, it's often not. And especially those physical pen tests really kind of demonstrate a lot of those major gaps. But as you're saying, right, majority of companies are moving away from databases or handling networks on prem, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to attack a company when the database is somewhere in some state in some area where it's just like this big warehouse that's cordoned off. So,
Yeah.
a lot of the corporate tests, they get dropped into the corporate network and attack from there. And pen testing from the enterprise side or the product side, usually you're attacking the app, right? In most
Right.
cases, that's the front end. So usually you get an IP address or a physical URL and they say go, right? Depending on the type of test you're doing. And they can attack anything and everything depending on the scope. But I think it's good to talk about the two different, kind of attack vectors there, because there are people who specify in each way, right? Like if you go for the OSCP certification, it's a very well-known certification, covers a generic thing, but years ago it didn't have, or a generic set of attack vectors years ago didn't have AD. And this was supposed to be like an
Yeah.
entry-level pen test, and now it does. A lot of, or a pen test certification, and now it does. And so a lot of people have that and are, leveling up their AD kind of side of it. But there's definitely those two different sides of kind of pen testing that I don't know where you want to lead in first or on those topics, but um, it's good that we, understand the drastic differences.
I think there are the differences, but there's a lot of overlap too, right? Because I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, like there is a data center somewhere, servers in racks, it's all the same technology. It's just a matter of like what's the software that you end up attacking, right? And so whether I have a physical network or it's a virtualized network, I'm managing it similarly, and you can go after it, but that happens more on the corporate side. And on the product side of the house, where it's all kind of application level, or if they want to attack the infrastructure, you can try. But I think tying it back to what we talked about last time, identity. This we see a lot of pen testers go straight for the identity
Yep.
in because it's the easiest thing to compromise in most cases. And it's because humans are a weak link. That you can fish someone, you can find a compromised credential somewhere and use that and kind of poke at the system. Or like we're talking a lot about the application and underlying like the infrastructure, but what about things like pipelines? Like
Yep.
there are other applications that feed into the product ecosystem and making a product a real thing that are targets.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
supply chain attacks exist.
and going after, like as you're saying, credentials or AD or these kinds of things, the blast radius is so huge depending on how much
Yeah.
what you get, right? Like you could go try to attack a, like let's say a server, right? And you're trying to compromise a service on that server. That level of sophistication to get past that and then try to priv-esque, through there to get higher level permissions versus going directly for credentials, right? You get one set of good credentials and your blast radius is massive. Say you own one
Yeah.
server, maybe that server doesn't have many other jumping points or connection paths, right? And so you're going back to square one to pivot from that
Yeah.
server to something else. Whereas credentials are something that are reused everywhere, especially as we talked in last episode, right? With like zero trust kind of mentalities and these re-authentications everywhere, you could find, let's say maybe not full on admin, but like kind of a semi admin level credentials, like a security credential or I don't know, something. And that one could lead you to connect to 5 other servers where you can maybe
Yeah.
compromise from there, right? The blast radius is huge and it makes sense. That's why attackers go straight for it.
I think even then, so like if you get a set of credentials for the application, it's a normal user, you can do so much damage, right? Like I got in either way. If you find an admin user, the damage is even more. If you find credentials for cloud systems, like now we're talking blast radius because I can get to the underlying infrastructure. And I mean, a lot of times, like we talked about last time, like identity is hard. Achieving least privilege and fine grained access so that something has only the access it needs and nothing more is it's time consuming, it's difficult. People don't want to spend time on it. And so they over permission these identities thinking, well, it's safe. No one's ever going to get their hands on it until someone does. And now it's like, hey man, I've got everything. What are you going to do about it? Suddenly you got to redesign how you set up access to all your systems. And maybe you should have invested the time up front.
Yeah, I think there's a subtle thing that you're saying there is that what about logging, right? Because sure you could do it all right, But if you don't have proper logging and alerting to detect when something goes, out of array and out of the norm, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're seeing around AI. AI is allowing us to like analyze these alerts and all these logs to detect anomalous activity, maybe a little better, but there's a lot of tools and things that you can use in the SOC to help detect those things. But you have to have both points, right? You want to have great
Yeah.
identity and great authentication everywhere done, but then you also want to be able to detect when things are just slightly out of whack and it's like, hey, maybe we should
Yeah.
look into this, right? And I think if you don't have both things, you're in a really you're in a pickle.
Yeah. I mean, that's logging and monitoring has been a thing since forever, right? Like we've always kind of been on defensive, like what happened? Let's do the after action thing and postmortem, whatever, analyze logs till your eyes bleed and no one can take it anymore. You fall out of your chair. Um, we have machines doing that now. Like we've been using machine learning for years and now we've got AI, which is like a amped up machine learning. Sometimes I struggle with like AI is good at processing data and making inferences and it's getting better, right? So anomalous activity, the tiniest thing could be off and these systems recognize it. And it's like within a minute it alerts somebody in the SOC. And so penetration testing, it's not just testing your application, it's testing your ability to identify and respond. Right. So like
Mm.
we make the SOC angry all the time because we're poking at stuff and they're like,
Yep.
what the hell are you doing? Like stop breaking the rules. I'm like, well, someone's got to, right? Like, would you rather it be me or would you rather it be a real bad guy?
Yeah. It's like a good tabletop exercise, right? Like a good way to present and show the value that the SOC is doing what it should be doing, which kind of I think leads into a really good like the next kind of thing we want to talk about, right? Which is real world hacking versus like kind of Hollywood.
Yes.
When you go to talk to my dad and he's gonna be like, dude, where's your hoodie and your green text and you're just hacking away pounding at a keyboard, right? That mentality and the way that I would say hacking is really shown in movies, shows, Hollywood is so, I don't know, just wrong. And there's only a few actual, right? I think about like Hackers, that's one of my favorite movies. That
Planet,
whole
man.
that it is just it's something else. It's visually beautiful, nowhere near accurate. In some ways, a lot of accurate things happen in the movie, but in real life, no way.
Yeah. I mean, it's if if they portrayed it realistically, people would be like, it's a guy sitting in front of a computer, like drinking his coffee. Like, this is not exciting. Like, it's like you and me talking right now. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, true.
So you got to make it cool. Like you got to have the dark room and the lights and whatever. It's kind of like your office. Like you've got the green lights
Yeah, true.
everywhere, and your consoles are black with green text. And we all know green's your favorite color. I mean, check out Coffee Chaos and ProdSec, the logo, man.
Yeah,
Like this is a work of Cameron's brain.
true. True.
I mean, it's exciting, and like I grew up seeing this stuff, and I was a computer nerd and played games. I was like, that's cool. Like I'm interested in security. I want to do that. And then you get into the field, and you're like, it's like I got catfished. It's
It's
still
kind of true.
fun.
Oh, I mean, when you pop somebody's server and you get admin creds or something,
Yeah.
right? It is a great feeling, but I think there is a different side to it. I definitely do. But I mean, in terms of different types of hacking, I think in the world, at least what we're seeing is an emerging kind of multiple different types of hacking, right? So we have, traditional engagements. Traditional engagements, I define those as like 2, maybe 1 to 3 week engagements where you hire a pen tester, you say, here's the scope. Usually it's compliance based, right? You're trying to meet XYZ compliance and you're saying, come in and we can talk about the level of depth and breadth that these tests actually provide. But I want to go through all of them. But yeah, so traditional engagement, 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe it's one, maybe a team of hackers, depends on your scope and how much. And usually do that like maybe once a year. You set the cadence, right? But that is also true for a corporate test as well as a product test. And then you have like kind of crowdsource testing, right? Crowdsource testing could be similar to like a traditional engagement. The difference that I'm seeing from these vendors is that now you have like you set up an engagement and it's kind of like a bug bounty, which we'll get into, but it's just a bunch of hackers can just jump into your environment and start attacking it. So I've used those in the past, and those are, you'll see it'll say like 500 people attack, participated, quote unquote, in your environment, right? And you're like, okay, that's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And it says you have like thousands of hours, and there's we can get into that later. I have opinions on that.
Oh,
And
of
then we have
course.
bug bounty programs. Bug bounty programs are interesting in the sense that usually the company offers up an X amount of money and says, "Hey, we have this big pool of money. Attack our app. Here's the scope," and it's a year-long thing. It just happens, right? And so people just go in. They go in and they attack the app. They submit what they find, and depending on the review process, if it's a valid vulnerability that meets a certain criteria, they get paid money. There are people who have legit full-on careers. That's what they do. They
Yeah.
just are in a multiple bug bounty programs and they hack like 8 hours a day, and hopefully, they make enough money to keep themselves afloat. Then we're seeing continuous pen testing, and this is a really interesting one because it's similar to bug bounty programs, but slightly different, but also similar. I think there's a little. I think between the two, there's kind of an emergence of both. But what I'm seeing too is a lot of companies where they build a lot of automation, and their platform attacks is kind of like a DAS tool, but much more sophisticated and based off what they find. Then it goes to a human, but it happens 24/7. And then the last one is kind of your in-house red team. So you, instead of hiring a third party to do this, you hire pen testers, and they're on your full-time staff for your company, and they conduct internal red team exercises and attack your team. Sometimes I would say these are much more like purple teams than red teams. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's true red teams anymore, because most of the time, right, they work with the teams and they test, and it's kind of this collaboration because they're already in house. But I don't know. I think that's debatable to some people's opinions. But those are the ones that I really see kind of going on,
Yeah.
especially in my career.
Yeah. I like when I encounter a red team, like a true red team where it's like they aren't like us, where they're on defense. So you're the blue team and you're also offense. So you got to play the red team and say, like, we built this thing. Now let's try to poke a hole in it. Right.
Yeah.
Like when you meet a true red team who is like, I don't care what Kirk and Cameron are doing over there. I'm going to go blow something up. And they just like explore and poke at it and they find it. It's kind of like your bug bounty hunters that are just looking for things to exploit, or they have their favorite targets and they're trying to get a payout because this is what they enjoy. They're hacking, they find something, you get a payout. Like I would love to be able to do that all day, but unfortunately I can't, because as security gets better, those theoretically get fewer and further between, right?
Mhm.
So we know people, we've worked with people on our teams even where they spend their free time, like they work all day doing the thing. And then at night they go and try to hack stuff. And occasionally they do land something and it's really cool. Like it's an accomplishment.
Yeah. True. I mean, of the kind of, models that I broke down, which one do you think is the most, common?
I think people like I still see a lot of traditional engagements and I can't say I'm a big fan of it. And the transition to the crowdsourced ones, I think we're starting to see more of that. The idea being that like the more attackers you have, the more you're going to find, right? And that's not necessarily true, because now if you have 500 people attacking, yes, you have 500 different methodologies. Doesn't mean you have 500 good ones. Like
Yeah.
these could just be hobbyists that are chasing bug bounties and they're not as effective as a professional. Like if you bring in a professional firm for one of those traditional engagements, they very often have some very dangerous people.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of value there. And that's why I think it's the most common. But I actually like thinking about continuous pen testing. Like I think that would be really cool to just have it happen. Like build a system. And now, of course, we're going to say like use AI and streamline it and try to automate whatever you can, right? But like it just launches attacks without any known patterns whenever it wants and tests your defenses to make sure you're ready. That's how we all get better.
Yeah, I would love to work at a company that had continuous. It's just so hard to usually justify the cost.
Yeah.
Same with in-house, right? Both those are very expensive, but extremely amazing, right? Like every time you release, or maybe you have like you conducted a monthly assessment on the latest version of your product. Oh, that would be so cool to have see them continuously just finding those little things that somebody who can do that full time, uh, you're gonna find the coolest stuff and the most interesting kind of issues. I think that's one
Yeah.
that, like, I agree with you. I think traditional engagements is normally what I see. And with that comes a whole suite of kind of issues and different things that come with not having more time. And I think that's the big thing is that a lot of these pen testers are on these engagements for like 1 to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they head on to the next thing. So how much can they
Right.
truly find? I've worked at plenty of companies where we conducted multiple 10 tests a year, but it didn't until like the AppSec team actually spent a 2 week engagement ourselves. We found all kinds of additional vulnerabilities, but they were really complex. Something that a long term or a well known or because we have all the insights were that more different, that we never defined it, but usually there's white box testing, black box testing, or gray box testing. And white boxes, they get the attackers get a list of everything. They can look at the code, they have architectural documents, essentially can look at everything from the inside and attack. Gray boxes, I give you a little bit. Maybe I give you an architectural document or some snippets of code or something. It's just a little more information. Whereas black boxes, hey, here's a URL, go attack, right? Here is a
How's
website.
at it?
Yeah, go have at it, see what you can
Great
do.
stuff.
Each one has merit in terms of the valid the fruitfulness of it and a different kind of test. But we kind of talked about it a little, but what are the big motivators for companies to do pen testing? And as we're saying, like we have these 5 different models, and they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Continuous. I don't know. Do you want to try it? I kind of want to try this. It, what do you think is the most expensive to least expensive?
The most expensive is, I think, I don't know, between the two, it's either continuous pen testing or in-house red teams, depending like it's highly dependent on how that in-house red team is set up. Like, is it one person sitting in a
Yeah.
closet just attacking everything? Or is it
Four
10
guys in a
people that are just
closet.
kind of Yeah, the IT closet.
Yeah, you're
Everyone
just
thinks we're a
locked
bunch
in
of
there.
we're a bunch of crazy people that wear the hood and sit in the closet and you feed us pizza under the door and whatever,
The
and
room's
we
like
don't come
800
out.
degrees.
Yeah. Well, you got your server racks and your
Oh
towers and
gosh.
whatever. It's just like
Poor
you're a
person.
gremlin just attacking things. That's not what security people are. We're real people. We like to have fun too. But I think like I don't know, the continuous pen testing, we're seeing the evolution. It's becoming more and more prevalent and it's expensive. So between in-house and continuous, I'm gonna say that's the most expensive. Um, then I'm gonna say bug bounty programs because you have to set aside a big bucket of money and have it at the ready so that when someone finds something, you can pay them.
Yep.
And it's not a small sum of money in my experience. And then from there, I'm gonna say crowdsourced and then traditional being last.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the in-house testing really depends on the individual you have because you could have like 10 people, but if you have one person, that could easily, in-house red team could become number one.
Right.
But back, to kind of what we're going to talk about, the motivators, sometimes you have to do both. You have to have a combination because there's a lot of the main reasons, but the three reasons I kind of see pen testing happen at every company is compliance, right? SOC 2 usually requires it, PCI, um, FedRAMP does, but FedRAMP is done by the 3PAL, I believe. So if you guys are not in the FedRAMP world, that means your auditor or the person who's handling your what is it called?
The
Review
authorization.
authorization. There it is. That person usually does it. It's not done by some party you pick. They kind of attack you, and you're kind of beholden to whatever attackers or things they handle. But the SOC 2 and PCI, these are well-known certifications, PCI DSS, that require it. The second one, customer trust, right? All the time.
Yep,
Yeah,
always.
I said the bad word, and I know you're just like customers. Ugh. Uh, been
I've
dealing
been
with a
doing a
lot.
lot of that this week.
I know. I've been dealing with a lot of the pen test side of it, where customers are asking a lot of questions around our pen testing, practices and things like that.
Yeah,
So definitely, customers are asking all the time about that. I feel like it's only increasing in the last like 3 years.
yeah,
Every year, I'm like ready to start tracking it, or maybe I can get AI to hook into my email and be like, how many, customer related emails am I getting, and track that over year and see if that's increasing. But I totally feel like it's increasing. I mean, back to the
yeah.
compliance thing. In Europe, there's DORA requirement.
Yep.
DORA is fascinating as a security framework that if you do business with financial banks in the in Europe, that one you're required or you're required to allow the customer to pen test your environment or to set up and replicate a similar environment,
Yep.
and at almost zero profit, right? It says zero profit.
Yeah.
So they still have to pay you because that's going to cost money, right? But you can't
Right.
make any money on it. So you're going to spend all these cycles replicating a customer environment so that they can attack, and then that's like mandated by that if they don't accept your version of pen testing. So I think that is a very
Yeah.
fascinating certification that's coming. um and the last one, I don't know, what do you think of the last one is?
Doing real security, like doing it because it's the right thing to do when you're securing an organization or an application or product, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, do you
I
think the
think
order is wrong?
so. I would argue, like between customers and compliance, I think it's a two-way tie for first place. Like I think most organizations are going to do it because they're like, we have to be compliant. And well, our customers require us to be compliant. And so it's kind of the same thing. And then the customers are going to ask, like, have you executed a pen test? And the thing that really grinds my gears, you know how I feel about checkbox security. Um, and I don't want to by any means I don't want anyone to think like I'm discounting or devaluing the governance, risk, and compliance folks. Like they are amazing people. They have to know so many frameworks, so many things, speak to so many things. Like they're great. GRC is great. Now, the fact that these frameworks are like, you have to pen test once a year, I'm like, that's dumb. I'm sorry, it is. Because let's face it, we're in a world where technology evolves every day. So if you're building a product and you're actually continuously developing, integrating, deploying, um, things are changing all the time. And if your release cycle is 2 weeks because you're awesome and you have that integration in deployment automation down packed and can do it, I want to meet you. If you release less frequently, no matter how often you release, it's not once a year. If you're releasing once a year, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. It's 2025, people. Um,
True.
it's almost 2026. But
Getting there.
doing it once a year, like you can tell, it grinds my gears. You do it once a year, a lot changes in a year.
Yeah.
So what good is it? Like you got a point in time snapshot and said, I'm secure. Okay. Well, the second you deploy the next thing and you have a critical vulnerability and one of these big bad advanced persistent threats, or APTs as we like to call them, finds their way in, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You're going to find out when it's too late.
I mean, it's true. I agree. I agree with compliance.
Bit of
And
a hot
then
take.
no, I don't think it's a valid take. I think it completely makes sense. But as security, right? We're always balancing the risk versus cost versus enabling the business. Pen tests
Yeah.
are not cheap, regardless of
No.
any vector, right? They are not cheap, and depending on the size of your application, it can be a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, I
navigating
have
that,
another
right?
hot take.
All right,
Another
all right,
hot take.
go.
It's not cheap. Nothing is cheap. Nothing in technology is cheap. Security is not cheap. So if you do security on the cheap, my camera just went blurry, I think, because I got so amped up. There we go. I had to refocus. I hit it. I hit it with the hot take. But budgets, everyone's like tightening their belt and spending less on security. And so it's like, yes, it's always about balance. And you can't have an infinite budget. Money is finite. You have to do things within reason because we're running businesses with the idea of making money. I get it. But if you keep constraining the resources and like it's just not going to work. It's going to break down somewhere. And so you have to be willing to invest to do this right. Like clearly it grinds my gears that I've been subject to budget cuts before many times. And it just it's annoying. Like I can't put it any simpler than that, because security is becoming more and more important in the world. Pen testing is important, and doing it once a year for the cheapest amount of money you can spend. I'm sorry, that's not the way you do security. That's checking a box. And we all know at this point how I feel about checking boxes. I'm very much in the camp of do it right. So spend a little bit of extra money, do it right, find your holes, and it builds more trust. And if you can build trust and get more customers, you make more money.
Yeah.
In theory, at least.
True, true. But I mean, I'll play a little devil's advocate, right? A lot of times when you have these pen testers, right? If you have an engagement, say you pen test, I don't know, 2 weeks, right? They usually find surface level vulnerabilities, right? 2 weeks
Yeah.
is not enough to understand your environment. So is your expectation that you would bring in the same pen tester and the same person over and over so that they become a master of your environment? But that individual is only going to be accessible for so long, right? There's a
They
lot
all
of
add up.
processing.
They're going to add up to the point you're going to say, why the hell didn't I just hire a red team?
Fair, fair. But
What?
I mean, in my experience, again, like some of the most sophisticated vulnerabilities in attack vectors we found were found in-house, because a pen tester, again, they would have had to spend weeks understanding the environment or the complexities, right? Like I'm thinking of one where we found we knew there was some APIs that you could do certain things. So we attacked our login reset, and the login reset, we found that that provided a certain ID number. Then we had an under the hood, once we were looking at the traffic, good old Burp Suite, we saw that there was an unauthenticated API that would just tell you anybody's email. And then we take that email, right? So then now we could we could type in whatever number we wanted, spit out somebody's
Right.
email. Then we could take that email, and OAuth, or I think it was ORIDC, was not properly
Oh boy.
not properly validating. It was validating off your credential, but you could capture the package or capture the request and put whatever email you wanted, and it's still validated on somebody else's, right? Crazy little attack vector, but we've had pen testers all over that for years. Nobody could connect the dots, and we did. Super fun, super cool. That company, we didn't find any exploitation, at least of that attack vector, in the years of logs we went through, which is a different problem, right? Keeping a bunch of logs. We could jump into that later, but I don't want to jump in that. Logs, paying for logs and keeping logs is hard. It's a lot of another money.
We need a SecOps person here to hear how they really feel about that.
True. But I mean, I agree that we should be doing it because we want to do real security. We should be doing multiple pen tests a year because we really care. But it's always a balance, right? And I think majority of these programs start in a way of compliance and earning customer trust, right? I think those two come hand in hand, because usually a startup will eventually reach a point where they want to do business with another company. And this is what we're seeing. We deal with this all the time. If you want to do business with another company, the security review is you got to be like SOC 2 compliant, right? And so then they have to show the pen test.
Entry level,
Yeah, it's kind of entry level now, right? And so that earns customer trust that you've met SOC 2. We can debate the validity of SOC 2 and the actual security behind SOC 2. But it is a step in the right direction. I know it's a step in the right direction to have SOC 2. I'd rather have a company have SOC 2 than not.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked in places where it's like, you don't have a SOC 2, conversation is not going any further. I will not even entertain your product. But I mean, SOC 2 is not the only thing. It's kind of become like the de facto standard, so to speak. It's like, but if I have ISO 27001, like, is that good enough? I think in some cases, yeah, it is. It's another industry standard certification that you and I have been through too many times. I think it has more prescriptive controls. Like SOC 2 is very process oriented and documentation and making sure that your processes work and don't break down over a long period of time. Well, that's type 2, long period of time. Type 1, snapshot in time. Not a GRC podcast, so I won't go any further. Um, but yeah, that's the entry point. And pen tests are part of these things. So fine, do it at least once a year. But I think we should all be saying maybe we need to do it more.
Yeah.
Or
And
like you and I talk about, like, let's get our buddies together and let's find time. Like, let's take a Friday every month and try to blow something up.
I think that's one thing that I was going to bring up is that there should be a lot, as a leader, there's a lot of opportunities to bring people together. We're always trying to find opportunities for like,
Yeah.
team bond building events, right? Well, if you're a remote company, you'll do like an escape room or some kind of virtual
Yeah.
Jeopardy. I don't know, the silly little things we do, right? That are fun as a team. Or if you're in person, right, you'll do, I don't know, team bonding events, whatever you want to
Yeah.
do, right? But hacking your application could be a great one. I know my team loves hacking, right? We put on
Yeah.
one of your guys already. He hosts an internal CTF. People
Every
love
year.
that. I was super bummed I couldn't compete. I was at LastCon, but I know there are other people who wish they could have competed, but they had XYZ happen. So
Yeah.
those things are super fun. Why not translate that into a business, right? Opportunity as well as a team bonding opportunity, which I try to launch at every company. Let's hack for like a week, right? Have
Yeah.
everybody, try to balance their schedules, clear them out, block what they can, maybe block half a day every day for a week and attack our apps. And as a team, maybe we jump all in a room and we start attacking, we grab documents, share things, and learn our area products even further, and then share our attacks and have a good time. I've seen a lot of success around, team building and finding very valid vulnerabilities. It's kind of what we did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're also seeing the shift too of like some of these more strict frameworks are saying you got to do at least the annual pen test, but like you've got to do red teaming. And so
Mm,
it's like, well, I can't hire a red team. So what do I do? Well, I do what we just talked about. We say, hey, everyone, who has pen testing credentials?
yep,
Because you are now part of the mission and we
yep,
are going to go attack some stuff.
yep. Well,
And I
and
mean,
it offers an opportunity for people to get pen testing credentials to be a part of the
right.
team.
It's a motivator because I think, like, honestly, I know a lot of people are interested in the hacking aspects of things. It's a hard discipline to succeed at. Like, you have to be extremely patient. You have to look at things in non-standard ways. It's not just like run this set of scripts and you're gonna break stuff, right? Like, you have to poke and prod and investigate and do the reconnaissance and sit there. And that's why we have these advanced persistent threats that they're constantly kind of chipping away at stuff. And when they find something, they have it in and then they just sit there and they quietly explore. And what they're trying to do is model normal behavior. So they're flying under the radar. So SecOps doesn't catch them. And then
Yep.
when they find what they want, it's like, bang, grab the data and go. Or sit there quietly and just go for months or years or whatever it may be. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But it's cool to think about too. Like, I don't have pen testing credentials. I think I want to at some point, but talking about like the CTFs or the capture the flag events that my team has organized and put on the past couple of years and with prizes, whether it's with teams or individual basis, like we're seeing more and more people who are not hands-on technical experts by any means. They're taking an interest, they're joining, they're learning, and they're becoming security people.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point, right? Host your own internal CTFs, get that hype, get that going, and then translate that into even more business risk or business opportunity, right? Host then an internal pen test on your own products.
Yeah.
So, the CTF trains everybody on, get their feet wet in a way that maybe they feel a little more comfortable, and then bring in the actual pen test for your product, and boom, now you've got an army of pen testers that are attacking your app. And, I guarantee you're going to find a ton of vulnerabilities and a ton of interesting things. At least everybody's going to understand your product even further, which is only going to amplify and mature your product or your teams in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I mean, it'll mature your whole product security program because people are learning things they normally wouldn't learn. Like, you can only learn so much from reading a document. Like, I'm sorry, as an architect, I spend a lot of time reading and looking at diagrams, and I'm like, this great. It's a thing. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like. What does it actually look like? It's often very different. And
Yeah.
so, like, that's another challenge. But when you can poke at it and explore and figure out what the reality is, you're like, oh, well, the document says this, which is misleading because that's not true. And so now my pen tester, who I gave that to, was misled and they couldn't properly test my system. So is that a good result? Because if it would have been truthful, maybe they would have found the thing that our red team ended up finding because they knew the system better. It's
Yeah.
like that, the whole expectation versus reality thing. Like, documentation is one thing, but the reality of how these systems are built and evolve over time, because problems happen. You deploy stuff, it doesn't work correctly, you adjust. That doesn't mean your documentation adjusted too.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've talked about this in other podcast episodes. The complexities and challenges. It's a common thing that I listen to other podcasts, engineering podcasts, all kinds of different ones. Building a pre-production environment that's supposed to simulate what your actual product is in real
Yes.
world happening is extremely hard because
And
a lot
expensive.
and extremely like right, yeah, the closer it gets to be more real like your production, the more expensive it gets every second, right? Because I think that's what people don't really understand is that when you set up this pre-production environment, you're going to simulate traffic. Traffic is not cheap. You have to first get that traffic. And so what do? You track what's actually happening, anonymize that data, anonymizing, removing any sensitive information and making sure that it's not
Yep.
tied back to any actual real customer. And then you use that data to test on your prod or simulate that. All of that takes massive effort. And think about every time you release a new version of your product, you're going to have to get new anonymized data and set that up there. It is extremely difficult to set up your own pre-production environment that actually simulates it, even at scale, right? A lot of times they'll shrink it down to where it's a lot smaller, but boom, what all of the times we hear people, their products going down. I don't know, for me, the first thing I think is video games, right? Video games come out and the release comes out and boom, you didn't know that this one little service that in all your testing looked like it could handle all the load, but the second you
Right.
bring on an army of gamers, boom, your server is down, your product's down, and everyone's unhappy and grumpy because you didn't know that, right? And how could you
Oh,
properly test that? The running joke is you can't. You could only test in
yeah.
prod.
Yeah, that I mean, there's some truth to it. I mean, like, I think Netflix kind of broke that mentality, right? When they came out with the whole idea of the chaos monkey, and then
Mm.
I think that grew into chaos gorilla. I don't know if they ever achieved King Kong. I don't know, but like, just nuking a prod
Godzilla.
service at any point to say, like, it's going to happen unpredictably. Someone's just going to kill that production service, and you have to be able to recover from it quickly to build that resilience. Like, it was highly innovative when that came out, and people are like, holy crap, like, that's a thing. Like,
Yeah.
how did they manage that? And think about the scale at which they operate. When they have an outage, it's like something's really wrong.
Yep.
Or AWS had a big outage last week. Azure was down yesterday. Like,
Yesterday, yeah.
damn it. And it's kind of funny that AI is writing so much code, and now we're having these massive outages of the internet. Maybe AI is not as smart as we thought it was, but now I'm going to get all the haters. But
Well, it's a perfect tangent into the next thing, which is the future of pen testing, right? We are seeing a world dominated by AI,
yeah,
and will that continue? That's a whole nother conversation. I think we could have a whole multi-long episode of around the length and the future of AI, depending on its success. Uh, but from a pen testing lens, I mean, what are you seeing, Kurt, around that? I mean, obviously, I'm seeing a bunch of things, but I want to know your opinion.
yeah. So, I mean, look, ever since this whole, like, generative AI came out, what, 2 years ago, when it finally kind of started catching on, and it's like this whole idea that you can ask it a question and it can dynamically, like, do research and come up with answers. And there's a lot of crazy technology and algorithms that do this thing. And so they've made pen testing tools that can kind of use this intelligence, and even in those early days, this is where I'm going with it, is someone would actually take a security tool or an attack tool and augment it with AI and set it off against the most advanced defenses that someone can put up. And I think the story I read, and I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but it like defeated it in minutes.
Mm.
And I mean, you're talking about operating at machine speed, which this is how attackers operate, right? Like you don't have humans just poking and prodding at systems. They use technology to their advantage. And so AI on the attacker front is very much a thing. Like there is a whole black market for AI attack tools and algorithms and models that exist today on the dark web, that you can do research. You might end up on a list. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but hey, but we have to do the same on defense. And so AI assisted pen testing, absolutely. Like I can't wait to see when someone kind of breaks pen testing with the best in class AI assisted tool and see what it finds. Or can it actually mimic human behavior intelligently to the point that you don't recognize it? Like act like an APT, for example. Like
Mm.
if we can achieve that level of pen testing with AI, I think it'd be amazing. I don't know what it would cost. I don't want to know what it would cost.
Costs a lot.
Um,
Yeah. The
but
whole
I think
time
it would
I'm
be
just
awesome.
thinking cost, cha-ching,
Money,
cha-ching,
money,
cha-ching.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, you triggered me there in one way or another. But one thing that drives me crazy is a lot of companies or people we talk to is, oh, the service is ephemeral, right? It's only up for a little while. It'll
Yeah.
be okay,
So it's
right? And
secure, right?
yeah, it's secure, right? We don't have to put as many security guide rails around. I'm like, what are you talking about? Timing attacks are
No.
a legit thing. There's a
Yep.
whole attack vector category on that. Once you figure out the service goes down, is there predictability? Is there a pattern?
Yep.
Can I develop a trigger, right? In the 5, 10 seconds, 30 seconds it runs, can I launch a payload, own it, have that do something else based off its level of credential access to pivot
Yeah.
again? I don't know. That was a tangent.
Well, it's
I
like
always
you
hear
could
that all the
pull
time.
for that, even if it's not predictable, though. You could pull for it. You could just
Yeah.
sit there and have a
Wait.
process being like, "Is it there yet? Is it there
Yeah.
yet? Is it there yet?" And
Right?
as soon as it is a bam, done.
Done, right? And so that's one thing all the time I see it, at least in the AppSec world, is like, oh, but it's only it's like short-lived, like a minute. And I'm like, a minute is a long time in a computer. That is a
Oh my god,
long time. So
you're
we can't have
triggering
that.
me now.
Yeah, I
I
know, I
had
know.
I have this experience all the time. Like it only lasts like less than 5 minutes. I'm like, that's 5 minutes. An attacker can do a lot of damage with. So fix it.
Fix it. Yep, all the time.
It's like
So
the whole argument of, oh, it's on the internal network only, so it's secure. I'm like, what are you smoking? Like, I went off on the tangent last time that network perimeters don't exist. Identity is the new perimeter that everyone's talking about. So, what say you internal networks is secure, people?
yeah,
I know
there's
they're not here right now, but
there's
leave a
nothing.
comment.
Leave a comment. Yeah, yeah. But I
Let's
mean,
talk.
I agree with you. I'm seeing I know of many specific companies who are developing essentially pen testing AI driven platforms, right? And the goal is to simulate that human level effort that can attack and reason in a way that you don't have to pay for, right? You don't have to hire a human. And in theory, or hopefully with long term, once it's proved its viability, is cheaper. You get a better test that costs as much or cheaper. That's massive value, right? And you no longer have to deal with human level timelines. That's something I deal with all the time. Is from my company, we have to pen testers have to have a whole bunch of certifications because our customers
Yeah,
require it. I'm looking for pen testers that have OSCP or higher certification and have to be CREST certified. CREST is a European
yeah,
certification, right? So I have to have these unicorn pen testers who have these certifications so they meet compliance or customer expectations. Finding those and then getting on their calendars, I have to plan these pen tests like 6 months ahead to make sure that they're there, they have their time, and oh my gosh, what happens if my environment doesn't get set up correctly, right? I have to then ask, be like, hey, do you have a backup candidate because we
yeah,
couldn't spin up our environment because as everything internally, sometimes technology goes wrong. But I digress. We are seeing a lot of companies building AI. I think AI is only going to continue going forward around autonomous or AI driven tooling. There's one company, I won't name it, that's on the top of the leaderboards and like Hack the Box. They're really disrupting the market right now, and it's very interesting to see what they're going to do and how that pans out. I've heard mixed reviews, but mostly positive on what they bring to the table. Again, we're in early days around this. If we can continue
Yeah.
to drive down the cost of AI, it'll be very interesting on that. And I still think there'll be a human element to it because there is a human, and everyone always says there's like a human intuitiveness or a gut feeling that kind of leads them to something. But I wonder
Yeah.
if that's just, us being humans and thinking we have that. But with a machine, right? Eventually it's going to hit the permutation that will nail that gut response.
Yeah, I mean, machines they operate on like predictable patterns for the most part, right? And so now we're seeing an evolution of technology where you kind of break that pattern of the machine only follows the instruction the human gives it. AI is doing away with that to some degree. Now it still has guardrails and it's not sentient. When that happens, we're doomed. The rise of the machines. Um, but I think I can't wait to see more come out of this segment of the security industry because it's super interesting to see how we can use it. Like we talked about continuous pen testing. If you have the technology that works around the clock, like that's it, man. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And now you can truly test your ability to respond. You don't need the chaos monkey. You need your continuous pen tester or both. I don't know. I've never had the privilege of having a chaos monkey in the environment.
True, true. That would be a cool time. I hoped someday to be in those things. So we're heading towards the end, and I want to jump to the hot takes because there's a lot of fun when I was building this or putting this the
Oh
agenda together.
man, I've
And
already had a few.
I know I don't know if we'll jump into them if we get triggered enough, but I just wanted to throw them out there because I thought they were funny. And I think all of us who run pen testing programs or have been a part of them can kind of feel it. But I love this one. Bug bounties are glorified QA. It's I don't know. For me, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. It is feels so real at
Yeah,
times because if you like I've seen what comes into a bug running program. Oh my gosh, I'm like, is this just QA? Like, how did this get through? Is this the second line? Is it the security level QA, right? With that lens, but sometimes you see these
yeah,
things and I'm like, wait, this is just like more of a regular bug, not a vulnerability. Interesting. Stop me if you have any
yeah.
comments,
That's
but
that's fair. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with it.
the other one, compliance tests are theater, right? I think we already touched on that point, right? We debated that one
Yeah,
too there.
don't
So
just check boxes. I'm not
yeah,
going off on that tangent again. We could be
don't
here the
don't.
rest of the day.
This one I hear every now and then, which is most reports aren't written for devs. They're written for auditors. That one I was like I completely understood it because I do this and I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, I do this all the time. I have a very strict auditor, and so my report is built to meet their level. And is that really dev friendly? No, but that's why I have a dev friendly report. I build two different reports. I actually have
Fair
three
enough.
different reports. I have an executive summary that's for customers. I have one that's built just for my auditors so that it meets their requirements. And then I have one that's internally that's only for our devs and for internal InfoSec because you got to tailor those things. I don't know if a lot of people don't do that, but if you don't do that, highly consider it. It is massive value. For me, I also make sure that all my executive reports are essentially accessible to our customer teams, our customer
Yeah,
success teams. That reduced so much noise on my for me. Like no longer am I getting, hey, can I get the latest pen test? I'm like, hey, they're all over here.
it's right there.
Boom,
Go there. Know it.
go
Love
there.
it.
Yeah,
Don't talk
bookmark
to
it.
me.
I'm not changing it. I will put every new report there. If the report's not there, it means it hasn't happened. So the next thing I'm thinking of doing is putting in the schedule. So I stop getting the questions of like, when is the next,
Yeah,
our customer is okay with 2024, but they also want to get the latest one in 2025, right? And I always just tell
yeah,
them, oh, it happens yearly, right? So you'll just add a year to whatever the previous date was. But that would be nice.
Yeah.
Vendors who use Nessus output as manual testing. Have you ever seen that? I have 100% seen pen tests that have come from, right? This is not something I've done in my program or have the pen testers have done, but I have gotten reports that were clearly Nessus scans, quote unquote, from a pen tester. I was like,
It's just like you're
this is
getting
one of the
catfish, man.
scans. I was like, seriously, I
Yeah.
felt like
It's
catfish.
different.
Yeah, and I could
Like,
not imagine my
oh
vulnerability management
man.
team when they got that pen test report. We're just like, wait, this is literally a Nessus scan,
Yeah, like I could have done that for free.
right?
Yeah. So do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
God.
I don't know. There's a couple other, but I want to jump into the other one. I think those are my top. I don't know if you can see the agenda. Is there any of those ones that are,
You already talked about testing in prod, so
Yeah.
we covered that one. I'm sure a lot of people have hot takes on that.
True. All right, rapid fire questions. I
Oh,
wanted
man.
to ask you, and maybe you can ask me one or two, but we kind of talked about this earlier. What's your preferred coffee order?
Preferred coffee. It depends on the day, man. Like I don't order coffee anymore because I invested in a
All
coffee
right,
machine.
we go out to have coffee together. What do you get?
It's depending, like, do I want jet fuel? I might just get a black coffee, man. Like I can stomach it. I like black coffee. I do like lattes though, so my kind of go-to at least is I'll have a latte. And so it's lighter, it's got the caffeine, it's got some calories, and the stuff that's good for you. It's not just acid to rot your teeth and get you all amped up. Like I'm always amped up. So I'll usually go with like a good latte. So you go like we already talked about this, like
Yeah.
your lavender coffee, Mr. Fancy Pants over here, or
But
whatever
it can be
syrup is
cold
at the
brew. It can
cafe.
be, basic coffee with a splash of something. But yeah, it's if I really need something, I'll do a red eye. So in my college days, I
Oh,
would do a black eye, and I don't know how I would do like 2 black eyes a day, and I was like, how did I live?
oh,
That's a
that's
lot
crazy.
of coffee with a lot of espresso.
It
Yeah.
just reminded me. I've been on a kick. I've been doing flat whites lately. And so it's like people are gonna be like, what's the difference? So like it's got less milk than a latte.
Mhm.
So it's a bit more, you get more of that coffee flavor, which I like. My wife took mine one day and was like, "Bleh, what's this?" I was like, that's a flat white. It's delicious. She just thought I was nuts. But
Wait,
I'm
that's
on a
why I
kick
hate
right now.
Starbucks. I hate Starbucks coffee, and I'm sorry, Starbucks, but for me, usually most of the time, like every drink is just 90% sugar. So if I go to
Yeah.
Starbucks, if I have to, I usually do not try to always go to a mom and pop shop for coffee, but I'll get like a black with a splash of like oat milk or almond milk.
Yeah. I actually, you know why they serve coffee so hot?
No.
Because when you drink, so I learned this in a whiskey tasting, but
Okay.
it's related. So when coffee is served super hot, you can't taste anything at that temperature. You're just like, what's that? It's hot drink full of caffeine, right? Like so, and when you let it cool down, you taste it, and you're like, ugh, it's not good. It tastes like burnt. I know a lot of people say that about Starbucks, but like I'll still drink their coffee. Um, but the same goes for cold. Like you get a cheap beer is the example that the guy gave. He's like, you make it so cold and you can't taste it. Let it warm up and see what happens at room temperature. You're not gonna want it anymore.
Mhm.
And so you're supposed to drink things like you can still have it hot, but not like fire, and then you
Mhm.
can actually taste it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Food for
So
thought.
I like to taste my coffee, and so it's not hot. It's like lukewarm now, and it's delicious.
All right. All
All
right.
right. What's the next question? I'm looking at the list.
I don't know. Give me one.
Um, I'm looking. I'm trying to find one we haven't talked about already. All right. What is the most ridiculous finding you've ever seen from a pen test?
Um, hmm.
It's a hard
Interesting.
question, man.
It
I don't even
is.
have an answer to this one. I would just be like, hey, Cameron, answer.
Yeah, I think the most ridiculous one is somebody uh they the pen tester got into our network, then got admin level AD creds, and from there essentially was just full access to
No
everything.
good. Once
Uh,
again, identity breaks everything.
yeah, that was interesting and required a lot of fixing. So a lot of fixing. Um, Anytime you get something like that, it was like an overprivileged group. It wasn't even like an
Yeah.
admin cred, it was like a similar group, and that was crazy. I mean, the one I talked about earlier too, where the one where we found internally, but that was from us
Yeah.
internally, right? Like most of the time when pen testers find something, I'm like, yeah, I'm still
Wait,
waiting for a
okay.
day. Yeah, okay. I can see where this had happened, right? Because again, they're surface level, right? I'm still waiting for the day when I see like a deserialization attack or like a buffer overflow or something, right? Something that's
Yeah.
like truly complex from the nature of the actual attack vector. But 90% of the pen testing findings I get is like
Yeah.
you're using an older version of XYZ, which has the potential for XYZ attack vector. And I'm like, why'd you say potential? Why didn't you exploit it? Like,
Yeah.
can you actually do
Like,
it, right?
maybe.
Yeah, I'm like, and or it's like, yeah, we exploited you, we found XSS, right? Or CSurf or something like that. Every now and then you'll get like or user enumeration or, but it is very rare. I've only seen a handful of pen tests that actually have like a critical. I think I've only seen one. And then for highs, most of the highs that I've seen, I've been able like I push back on. I think that's one tip that a lot of people don't understand that we probably didn't talk about here. You can push back on these findings. A lot of the pen testers companies, they obviously they want to stack it high. They want to show their value.
Yeah.
I oh man, highly recommend pushing back. You can if you can justify like maybe bring down the severity, which it sometimes is very obvious, right? It's like, wait, I agree that this is a problem, but the
Right.
exploit path required multiple attack chain to get there and required already having like some kind of external attack vector. This part of your attack is not also a high. If you were to see this, this would be a medium by itself, right? And I think your only reason you're making it a high is because you came in through a high, right? Like I think that's what I see is that they'll be because it's part of the attack chain, they'll keep every finding along those attack chain as highs.
Interesting. I mean, we see a lot about like theoretical attacks too. People are like, well, you could do this, this, and this. And like, yeah, in a perfect environment where like a researcher configured it to be vulnerable that way, like it's possible, right? Like, do you see it in the wild? I think there's some overly complex attacks where it's like, are we truly gonna witness that happen? And so do we need to weigh it as heavily as we are, or can we knock that down because it's in practice, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right. What is one sentence of advice you could give to pen testers?
Jeez, I don't this it's not my area of expertise, man. You know me, I'm just gonna say blow it up.
That's it.
I mean, I mean that's the fun one.
Do you mean
I'm
to go
trying to
first?
I think I do because I'm like I'm sitting here thinking like what real
All right.
advice
All
would I
right.
give
All
a pen
right. All
tester?
right. I got you.
It might be
Learn
context specific.
learn the basics.
All
Literally
right.
learn and understand the basics. And then the second thing is always understand whatever you're attacking. So many people I've seen where they don't take the time to maybe read the manual pages, the man pages, right?
Our
Read the
TFM,
pages.
man.
Yeah, actually read it and understand it. There are so many times I've seen people who are just like, they're trying to go fast and loose, but they don't truly understand what they're doing or why they're doing it or what the thing does. And if they would have just understood it, it would have made them so much better at their job. So truly having the foundations and understanding things is can go far, whereas a lot of us just focus on, trying to own that service or get pop
Yeah.
the flag.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about it. I kind of started saying it, but like context matters, goes hand in hand with that, right? To say like if you take the time to understand what you're after, and this applies outside of pen testing, obviously, it's any skill set, like know the basics, know what you're doing, understand the context, and get after it. Because if you understand the moving parts and the things you're hitting, and like whether it's a unauthenticated pen test, which like you're the outsider just going after something, or an authenticated pen test where they have a valid credential, like a user going off the rails, like knowing what you're attacking gives you so much more power, and it makes it much more legitimate, I think.
All right, we're wrapping this thing up. It's been a long
right.
podcast. This one went a lot longer than I thought it would have. So thank you
been
everybody
fun.
for coming to Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. Title of the episode, Hack the Stack Inside the Chaos of Pen Testing. I hope it was fun. Hope it was useful. Hit that smash, hit that like.
Hit the
follow
smash.
button. Yeah, hit the smash.
subscribe.
There it is. There it is. One of these days I'll get it. I'll get it correct.
Hit the smash.
Yeah, clearly I need more caffeine or something, bro. It was something else. Kurt, as always, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Next week, I think we're releasing next week. Like this might be like the next week. It is, I believe. Double checking.
Sometime soon. I think it's like a week and a half.
It's a week
next
and a half.
week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week we're talking
next
about
episode.
pipelines.
We're talking about pipelines. We're going to be interviewing for the SPVS. At least if that's the order that we release things. Who knows? That's subject to change. So don't quote me on that or confirm that. But again, thanks for joining. Again, smash that smash. Follow
smash
the
follow.
subscribe
or like, man.
Whatever it is. This is Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. Take care.